Federal Content Marketing That Works is a presentation that is going to be brought to us by a presentation duo of one of our members representing a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and one of my most long-standing friends and mentors in the federal market, and I'm going to introduce each of them to you right now. Mark Amtower is the founding partner of the government market advisory firm Amtower & Company in Columbia, Maryland. He's advised thousands of companies, including some of the largest marquee names in the business and small companies just like yours and mine, and advised them to literally hundreds of millions of dollars of success in the federal market. He's been doing this for over 30 years and got his start on the direct marketing side and now advises companies on every aspect of his particular magic, which is what it takes for you and your message to reach your target audience. I have the dubious pleasure in a past life of actually connecting Mark with his very first speaking engagement, about which I think the less said the better, but it went very well, and Mark can tell his own stories about that if he wants to. He's been quoted in over 250 publications. He speaks at over 20 major industry events a year and is now in his 12th year of hosting Amtower Off Center, a radio program that has been the first program to focus on the issues that matter to government contractors in the federal space. We're honored to have him with us. He's also an internationally recognized expert on LinkedIn. Anytime we have a subject matter expert that's coming before us, I always want to make sure that we have a veteran business, one of our members that has a story to tell that goes along with the kinds of things that our subject matter expert is bringing us. Today, that expert is Megan Battaglia. She is the partner and marketing manager at Thundercat Technologies. It's a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that is based in Reston, Virginia. Thundercat, a very cool name about which you'll learn more in a moment, is a leading solutions provider to the federal government, as well as educational institutions and commercial companies. Megan reports to Dave Schlosser, COO, and works with the sales team and implements partner relationships while executing both the internal and external marketing activities. She works jointly with Thundercat's strategic partners to develop and support marketing events, webcasts, and campaigns. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration, concentrating in information systems and technology, and a minor in mass communication from Shenandoah University. Prior to Thundercat, she put her marketing expertise to work for McCormick & Company and Johns Hopkins Health Systems in Baltimore, Maryland. Mark, Megan, take it away.
You can do the clipping.
All right, and both of you up here.
Up there?
Yes.
But I'm afraid of heights.
We pay big money for this stuff.
I'm back on.
Don't know what the problem is? Try this one. See if it helps better. Could be mine. Could be yours. Okay, turn yours off and try this. Okay.
Why don't we
Why don't you
both
share
use
this one
that?
then? Share this one then, please.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. There you go. All right, here you go. Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
The talking stick.
Yeah.
There you go. I could do worse.
Greetings and salutations, and thank you all very much for your service. Say that before I forget. I forget a lot of things. A couple of things to think about during the workshop. Number one reason people lose bids. I'll be speaking at APMP tomorrow. I think Bob will be presenting as well. Association for Proposal Management Professionals. Every year I go, I hear the same thing. We lose bids because the agency doesn't know us. That's not the agency's problem, it's your problem. Forrester research says that 57% of the buying decision is made before the customer contacts the vendor. That's a B2B survey. The same thing applies in the government market. Training restrictions do remain in place. It's harder for feds to get out. I'm not quite sure what that has to do with today. Budgets are tight. They're here, but they're not extremely lucrative, I think. Procurement regulations are changing fast, faster than I've ever seen it in this market, and competition remains intense or actually getting more so. So, what is content marketing? I believe this is a CMI, Content Marketing Institute. Strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to a defined audience. Okay, I don't want to read the whole damn thing. Next. So, content versus collateral. We all have collaterals. We have the handouts with our contracts, with our NAICS codes, with hopefully your PSCs as well. So that's going to highlight who you are, what you do, your veteran-owned status, your other statuses as well if you have them. Content seeks to inform, to educate, it highlights your areas of expertise, and it sets you and your company apart as a knowledgeable provider regardless of whatever your service is. I don't want to read this verbatim either, but awareness, lead generation, customer acquisition, thought leadership are the biggies here. This is what content can do for you. I like to think, and we may have a slide on this later on, Market Connections did a study recently on the government contracting market. You can download it for free, marketconnectionsinc.com. The number one thing that successful contractors think win them business is developing that thought leadership subject matter expert platform. You cannot do that without content. So, Kate, do you want to take over for a while?
Sure.
Why not?
Step over here. So the case for content marketing, basically it can demonstrate any area of your expertise. You want to let people know what you're thinking and what approach you're taking. You want to target your audience and across the board. So you can use different search engines, you can use different social media platforms, but you really want to reach them out in any way necessary. And for content marketing, it's also less expensive than usual marketing. Digital media is the way to go. This is what a lot of people are leaning towards, and you can save a good amount of money by leveraging some free content.
Yeah, this is from another Market Connection study. You can download this. But this identifies the types of content that works at different parts of the procurement cycle. So at the identification of need of product, the allocation of budget dollars, the determination of the requirements, drafting the RFP, all the way through to award. Content influences the buying decision makers, not just the contracting officer, probably not the contracting officer, as much as some of the other influencers there. You can help them shape the RFP by providing them information on what you know they need, but you have to be ahead of the curve on the early part of this cycle. But, you know, and how many people here can do all of these things? You know, nobody. Not a surprise. Webinars, case studies, white papers, e-news, e-books, marketing collateral actually fits. Infographics are hot. I call it information light, but they really work. It gives you a graphic image with stats, usually, that's easy to absorb. That's why they're whatever. They're hot. Podcasts. I was at the Government Executive Market Preview. This is their own commercial on what they do for the market, and generally for people with one boatload of money. But they're going to start, they say, the ultimate podcast network for GovCon. Podcasts are hot. They're relatively easy to do, but the key is distribution. I've got news for them. My radio show's been on the air 12 years, so those podcasts go back 12 years. You can download them. Blogs. Blogs are also, I consider it a low entry point. and anybody can do it. However, not everybody should do it because not everybody is as good a writer as they think they are. So if you blog, make sure other people edit and read this before it goes live. This is yours.
Yes, so Thundercat is a service disabled veteran small business. Most of what I do is generating our own content, but at the same time leveraging our partners' content. The way that we market to the federal government, we often use our partners' research centers, and they have market research centers where they have their own white papers that they've already created, or their own social media posts that they've already created that we can download at Thundercat and kind of add our own personal touch and then re-put it back out there. So as a small business, it's not always easy for us to be coming up with our own content every single day. And so it really helps when you're able to leverage other people's content and you're able to put your own spin on it, but still get the message across to your target audience who you want to kind of align yourself with. And to give kind of a little bit of background on Thundercat, I should have done this a bit earlier. We were co-founded by our CEO, Tom Dearline, in 2008. And Tom is a Bronze Star and Purple Heart recipient. And his call sign while in Iraq, he was an Army Ranger, was Thundercat 6. So that is how we got our name, Thundercat Technology, through his call sign after he was shot by a sniper in Baghdad. And 2 years after he recovered, he started Thundercat Technology. So having a veteran as our CEO plays a big role as to what Thundercat does and what our mission is.
Go back to that last one. Yeah, this one. Talk about some of the things that you do for the market, unless you're going to get into that later. Your give back.
Oh, like our philanthropy?
Yeah.
So we, as a veteran, we do a lot. Tom, our CEO, he has his own foundation. It's called the TD Foundation, and he uses that foundation to help veterans who are in need. And he helps them, like if someone needs their rent paid, or if their child needs a bicycle, or these different aspects where we can kind of come in and help and make things a little bit easier for them. And that is a huge part of what Tom does, and it's a huge part of what Thundercat does. And we do use that a lot in our marketing, as like everyone in the company gives back, and it's very important to us to be connected to other veterans and support them as well through all their engagements. So we've done quite a lot with that, and the TD Foundation was kind of like a big stepping stone as to what Thundercat really is. So kind of leveraging into marketing as an SDVOSB, we are a value-added reseller. So we are a solution provider of technology services to the federal government. So when I go into a marketing meeting or a marketing plan, there's 3 steps that I really like to focus on, and that's choosing the topic, format, and content. And for choosing the topic, how we work is basically between traditional marketing and agency-based marketing. Has anyone done agency-based marketing before? Or is it more traditional? Most people do traditional, but in a way, if you're able to do agency-based marketing, it tends to be a lot easier and a lot more focused. But it all depends on what your company's goals are. Traditional marketing is more so doing events and trade shows, but kind of targeting a wider audience. Agency is more focused. So after kind of choosing what topic we want to go with, we'll move into our format. And most of things that have worked best for Thundercat has been face-to-face and digital. We've moved into a lot of webinars, and we gather our SMEs and we have them actually present. So anything that we can do to have an interaction between people rather than just throwing up a white paper and hoping that people would download it and we can start a conversation there. We will maybe start with a webinar, and at the webinar they can download the white paper as well. So we kind of pair things up where we can do something that's interactive. And then of course the content can be pushed out through social media, radio and podcasts, and then we host everything on our website as well. So it's very important to have a good resource library on your website.
I want to touch on the ABM aspect. This is pretty hot too. We'll be talking about it at the GAIN conference again on November 1 from Government Marketing University. Account-based marketing simply means you're focusing your efforts on your primary accounts rather than the shotgun approach. And it can work better for you because you can target your content. Go back to the influencer side. I think Judy will send you all the slides if she hasn't already done so. If you can influence at an early stage any procurement that's coming up that involves the technologies or services that you provide, it's a much more targeted and much more lucrative approach ultimately. If it doesn't win you the contract, it can win you the attention of primes who may bring you on. So what do you write about? You write about what the customer needs, what their problems are, and what you know that will help the customer, and then literally about what you sell. About what you sell is at the end. But the content is not a sales tool in the traditional sense. It is an educational tool. You have to get around to the services that you provide, but it's not like you're going to put a price tag in there and that type of thing. But it has to be customer-centric content. Next, please. So, steps to determining the topics. What are the agency problems? Know what you do well. List your strengths. If you have multiple strengths, that's fine. If you're honing down, for instance, I heard on Federal News Radio yesterday that cloud services are getting their own SIN. I don't know if that means all cloud services or a particular cloud service. A year and a half ago it was CDM. So continuous diagnostics and mitigation. Bloomberg did a study from 2012 to 2016 that showed $1 billion worth of activity went through some very specific government contracts for CDM. GSA paid attention and gave it a SIN. So know what you do well. If you're playing in that cyber area, don't just say you're a cyber expert. What facet of cyber are you involved in? Determine and define your market niche position. That's your core strength as well as the agency or agencies that you're targeting. If you're a small business, please do not target the government. Please target one or two agencies. Develop outside information feeds. I get about 30 to 50 a day. I don't necessarily read them all, but I try to scan them all to see what's coming down the pike. I'm not a lawyer, I get legal feeds. I need to know what laws or interpretation of laws are going to impact certain contracts so I know how to adjust the marketing on those vehicles. And start listing topics that you can and that need to be addressed. So information feeds for me, I get a variety of feeds from associations, publication feeds, agency news feeds. You can go on to any agency in the federal government. Their communications department will send out information. Sometimes the procurement offices will send out information. I use Bloomberg, so I get Bloomberg stuff many, many times a day. I can turn off some of it if I want, but I really don't want it because I want to know that it's out there. And my reading time sometimes runs to 7 to 9 in the evening, but you know, I learn a lot of stuff. I also set up Google Alerts for everything that my clients need to know. So I get very granular on the feeds that I get from Google. JD Super is my law supplier. They aggregate information from a variety of law firms that focus on government contracting, and there's a bunch of others as well. So Subject matter experts. You can be a subject matter expert, the leading expert on any topic, but if you live in your parents' basement and suck Dr. Pepper and eat Cheez-Its all day, nobody cares. So how do you highlight your SMEs? Are you positioning your SMEs? Take this one and tell them how you do it.
So for us, I tend to work a lot with our engineers, sales, and our CTO when working on marketing presentations. And depending on the topic or what we want to talk about, we kind of go down our list, and I work very closely with our VP of engineering, and we're talking about who can give the best technical overview, but at the same time have it be simple enough that people can understand it. So luckily at Thundercat, we have some great speakers, and they're able to kind of step up and do the webinars or kind of review the content that I'm working on in order to make sure that we're getting the right message across. And you always kind of want to keep it consistent with your SMEs because you want to have a consistent message. If you're having too many people do speaking engagements, it will tend to get a little confusing and about all over the place depending on what topics you're speaking on. So it's really good to solidify maybe like 2 to 3 good speakers in your company or people who are good at editing and can kind of help navigate those processes.
Go back for a second. The point of this slide is goals. What do you want your content to do? It's the same thing I do when I teach LinkedIn. What do you want people to do after they look at your profile? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to connect with you? Do you want them to follow you? So there's a variety of things that you can do here. Multiple goals are acceptable, but when you're writing content, it's important to keep those goals literally front and center so you don't vary from that. So, what's your budget for content? Which formats are easier to start? Do you have good writers? Do you have SMEs? Do you have good speakers? I did some work with a company called Micron back in the 1990s, Micron PC. They were competing against Dell and Gateway, massively larger companies at the time. All three sold PCs and laptops direct to business and to government. They were really great on the ABM side. They focused on 4 agencies and we made a killing. But we had an opportunity for their CEO to speak at a brand new event. It was an event co-sponsored by AFCEA and Federal Computer Week. And I asked the head of Federal, I said, "Are you sure this guy can talk?" And he said, "Yeah, of course he can talk." Ballroom set up for 350 people. It was half full when he started. It was almost empty when he finished. Not only couldn't he talk, he also ranted. Not a good thing. So vet your speakers before you put them out there. You can get speaker training in a variety of venues, one-on-one, public, anything. But make sure they can speak. And if you have subject matter experts on staff, get that information out of them. So, formats, live events, paid advertising, advertorial, PR, broadcast. That includes, the broadcast media includes podcast. It's very important that you consider this because podcasts can go anywhere from 3 minutes to literally as long as you want, but people want bite-sized information, and if you become a preferred information source for your audience, they're going to keep coming back for the new stuff. White papers, case study, information. It's not a numbers game on who views, it's a quality game, and do they need the information? So, leveraging trade media, getting into the story. Judy mentioned that I've been in over 250 publications. I work very hard at staying visible. and I had some talent at it. But our trade media here covers, I shouldn't have WFED now, we're now known as Federal News Network, if you didn't notice. Government Matters, the TV show with Francis Rose, FCW, GCN, GovExec, on and on. Washington Business Journal touches on our market on occasion. I would not consider them a primary publication for anybody in here to need to read to find the information. But there's a lot. Next slide. So the people you need to reach if you want to get in to the PR aspect, you need to know the reporters, editors, hosts. All of these people need fodder. They need information on a regular basis. So as you're pumping out that content, if you know these people or if you want to know these people, see if you can get your content into their information feed. If you want to reach out to them, know what they do first. What do they write about? Who's their audience? You can take the pictures if you want, but Judy will give you the slides later. Or you can come closer and get a better picture. They want verifiable experts in their stories, and you need to identify them. They need to be in your network. So, I think it's the next slide. Read some of their stories, review their LinkedIn profile. They're all on LinkedIn, every single one of them. Not all of them will connect to you, but several of them will, if you give them a legitimate reason. Decide if it's the right person, what angles are they. When you read somebody's stories, if you read 3 or 4 of their stories, you're going to get a feel for the angles that they're looking for. Are they looking for controversy? Are they looking for big dollars? Are they looking for contract wins? Are they doing business stories on small business set-aside work? If they address those issues, you got to reach out. So selecting the media outlets, pick the ones that fit best, okay? Washington Technology writes about small business issues. Several of the columnists there write about small business issues. Some of them take outside submissions. So Federal Computer Week has actually published a couple of my articles in the last couple of years. Am I a computer expert? No. But I have enough information and I know their audience well enough that I can talk about things like CDM. That was my last article in there. So I took Bloomberg stuff, reformatted it, and wrote an article for FCW. Other people's content in action. Radio interviews, if you get on Federal News Radio or on the Federal News Network, your interviews can be as short as 2 minutes or as long as 40 minutes. But be prepared, if it's going to be a short thing, if Tom Temin or Jared Servu calls and wants you, be prepared to say something succinct and intelligent in 2 minutes. So FNR did that. A lot of the shows on Federal News Radio are not by station personnel. I've been on there for 12 years. Larry Allen was on when he was with the Coalition for Government Procurement. That's Roger Waldron's show now. John Gilroy, the tech guy, has been on there 1 week less than me. He says it's longer, but he's wrong. Government Matters, News Channel 8, part of WJLA here in DC. They actually film somewhere pretty close to here. I get lost when I go there. How close?
Yeah, right down Wilson.
Yeah, there you go, right down Wilson. So go throw tomatoes at Francis. But again, you can do your own broadcast media as well. Your website can host podcasts. Your website can host videos. LinkedIn, your profile, your company profile will support both video and podcasts. So you can be your own broadcast media. And again, government executive claims they'll be the the ultimate podcast network, but they really think that podcasts are going to hit their stride in 2019. They have some pretty decent research to back that up.
So I can speak a little bit more to this. We just finished a campaign with Federal News Radio, and we were targeting the Department of State. And we did a webinar with the Assistant Deputy Director to the Department of State, the Ask the CIO webinar that Federal News Radio does. And we did this strategically during busy season. So anyone who sells to the federal government knows that the month of September is the end of their fiscal year, and it could be pretty hectic. So we wanted to do something that was going to be almost brand awareness, but at the same time bring in some ROI. And we ran a radio ad campaign along with the webinar. So we had about 10 radio ads that promoted the webinar, and then we did 10 additional ones that just promoted Thundercat and our partner NetApp's business, and we had it focused around cloud. And I wonder if the volume will work.
Imagine going from 0 to 100 terabytes in just seconds. Now you can with Thundercat technology and NetApp. See how easy it is to reduce transition time to the cloud of your choice and boost performance for all your applications. NetApp is the data authority for hybrid cloud, and Thundercat is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business dedicated to being a trusted provider of IT to the federal government through consistently superior performance, commitment, and integrity. Learn more at thundercattech.com/NetApp.
So that seems like a lot of time, but it was only 30 seconds. And you can get a lot of information in that 30 seconds. And with Federal News Radio, they also do 60-second commercials as well. So we kind of leveraged both and changed up the content just a little bit and the messaging just a little bit, but kept it focused around our ultimate goal. And we pushed that out throughout the entire month of September. And we had good results. We love to track things through ROI. Partners that we work with love to see leads and everything that can be ROI trackable. And we had 185 webinar registrants as of the end of the month. It increased our website traffic. We had about 3,000 new visitors just in the month of September. And it created a lot of busy season brand awareness. So timing was everything for us. We wanted people to be going to our website during busy season and driving as much business from a market standpoint. And then, so like I mentioned earlier, having a good website is also very important for marketing. And currently we're going through a little bit of a website reconstruction because we want to keep it fresh, something simple. You always want your navigation to be easy for people to kind of get through. You never want a confusing website. And a big thing for us is to have a resources page, and that's where we kind of keep all of our media content. So we have it right on the search bar. You can go in. We have it listed just by 3 topics right now, but we have our white papers, which also include solution briefs, webcasts, and our events. And so everything that we do with our partners, we will push out through social media. We'll push it out through those third-party marketing groups, such as Government Exec or GovLoop, companies like those. And after they're finished kind of pushing it out through their ends, we'll then host it on our website. And everything that we do on our website can be gated or ungated. And a lot of the time we'll have it gated for maybe about 30 days. And then after a while, we'll make it ungated because sometimes people are a little bit reluctant to put in their information when downloading. So we want to make sure that it's always able to be downloaded. And then we also will put up all of our webcasts and videos. And we tend to find that people like watching videos a lot better than reading 3 pages worth of information. And you want to have great graphics, something simple. Most of the time, only between a minute and a minute and a half is what people are really going to focus on. So we kind of try to switch it up and do a little bit more video rather than just constantly doing readable content. And then also having a list of events where you're going to be present at, where customers can find you, where you can set up meetings. It's always important to kind of keep those up to date, and we're on our new site, we're going to be hosting like a calendar and our booth numbers and things like that. So it's always important to kind of let your customers know if you're going to be at a trade show, where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, and how they can find you, because a lot of times our sales reps love to meet face-to-face, and that's where we do a lot of our marketing. Is we have a one-page slick that they can hand out, but at the same time it all comes down to the face-to-face meeting. And so we want to make sure that on our website it's present. And so sharing your content, like I said, you should share it on your website, share it on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I've come to notice that all of the different social media platforms target different people. And Facebook, in my opinion, has tended to be a little bit more personal compared to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's more professional. So it all kind of depends on who you're targeting and when you want to target them. Most people during the day are on LinkedIn. They're reading articles in the morning, they're posting. It's really when you can kind of connect to them that way. And also leveraging your staff, having your staff retweet your tweets or share out your content, write their own blog post and post it on their personal, but as well as your company post, is kind of also broadens the range that you're targeting.
Briefly on LinkedIn, I do a census every other year of feds on LinkedIn. This was the third time I did it earlier this year. We broke the 2 million feds on LinkedIn mark as of April of this year. The feds are there. You need to reach out on an agency basis or a broader basis, depending on your goals. So using outside content from blogs and other media sources are great opportunities to share other people's content, as long as that content is not highlighting a competitor of yours. So if it's a generic article but an interesting article about something that you do, repost it and comment on it. Share what you think is the highlight on there, share if you think they missed something, but leverage that content. I don't think I ever told you this, Bob. Bob and I both write for Washington Technology. I've posted a lot of Bob's articles on LinkedIn, and about a third of the time people will think I wrote his article, and I'm not there to disabuse them of that. We write about totally different things, but I ain't gonna tell them. But here's the thing, on LinkedIn especially, if you post something in a group, it's your picture, your name, and the beginning of your subject line right there on that article, okay? So you're getting your name out, you're getting your company out. Go back to that last one. If you have partners, leverage their content, share their content. The NetApp example. We actually met as a result of NetApp sponsoring my LinkedIn training for Thundercat. And since that time, I've paid a lot more attention to all of the things that you and NetApp have done together, particularly the radio spots and the webinars. Because you're familiar with it, you see it more often. And I thought it was a very effective campaign. Sharing via Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and comment on what is right as well as what is wrong. Now, thank you.
So this is an example of how, for our campaign that we did, we kind of spread it amongst the different social media platforms. So on the left is a LinkedIn post, and then on the top right is a tweet going out to get people to register, and then at the bottom is a tweet having people catch the webinar if they missed it. So you always want to do like a pre-market campaign and then a post-market campaign, because you want to make sure that you're really pushing out your content even if people were unable to watch it live. And so we did that on both LinkedIn and Twitter. to kind of garner more attention to our webinar that we did. And then again, here is like an email blast that we sent out as well to some of our customers and databases that we have to get people to register. And Federal News Radio, they did all of that on their own, and then NetApp did it on their side, and Thundercat did it on their side. So we really were reaching across the board between the three of us.
And keep in mind that she said she had 185
Use the mic.
people, 185 people attended their webinar. That was the live portion. The residual effect, if it's an evergreen content, and it was, she's probably had at least that many people since.
Yep, we're still gathering information on that and getting downloads. So that will be going until the end of the month. And then, like I touched about on before, gated versus ungated, it really depends on who your target audience is and what your message is. If you're wanting to do something that's more just brand awareness, I would say don't gate it. But if you want to do something where you want to get those leads, you want to get that contact information where you're going to follow up within 2 weeks and reach out to them after downloading something or after watching your webcast, then I would say use gated, because you'll gather that information better and you can nurture those leads based off the content that you're putting up on your website.
So you build your content library according to what you can accomplish. Again, when I asked if all of you or any of you could do all of those content formats that were up there, it was kind of a facetious question. Thundercat only uses, really right now, two. They have the webinars and they have the position papers, the white papers. You're going to go into blogging soon. So it's an incremental process. You can't do it all first. So what can you get out the door and how regularly can you get it out? You know, calling me and saying, well, I did a white paper once, it didn't work. Well, if you do it once and don't do it again, you are not an information source, okay? Pick topics that are germane to your core audience, write about those. Create evergreen, the webinars. Anybody here know a company called Carasoft? Just a few people? Okay. Carasoft started in '04. Craig, on the front page of his first website, had webinars down the middle, all of the webinars they're doing. What's on their homepage today? Webinars and live events. It's right there on the homepage. It's been his driving marketing tool since day one, educating the people that he wants to sell to. So commenting on breaking news is something smaller companies can do better than larger companies, because if you want to comment while it's breaking, you don't have all of those corporate hoops to go through. Next slide, please. So I think we're done.
Yes. Any questions?
If you've got a question, please put it in your hand. First of all, please join me in thanking Mark and Megan for sharing a lot of really valuable information. And if you would kindly stay put, I'll bring the mic around to anyone who has a question. Please raise a hand. If you're thinking about challenges you're facing and questions you've got, take their brains. Go ahead, please. Identify yourself and then ask your question.
Hi, Andy Melton from Onyx Government Services. You talk about using other people's content, and I guess my immediate reaction is things like copyright and plagiarism and things like that. How do you incorporate other people's contents without getting yourself in trouble with those other people?
Most people
Use the mic.
Most people are not going to care if you're sharing their content in a positive light. Okay? So when you get into the negative comments, that might become problematic. However, if the content is written in one of the trade publications, it's free game. You can comment on the trade pub. There's always a comment section there. You can click the title, post it in LinkedIn, say what you like, say what you don't like. If it's company content, a webinar from NetApp, you're going to need permission to repost and comment. However, you can post a link to the webinar and say, here's 2 or 3 serious mistakes that these guys overlooked. I love other people's content.
And very few people object to you sharing their stuff. Most people are absolutely thrilled, and if you have a concern, just ask them. It's a great way to make friends. You would be surprised at the number of people who go produce content and wonder if anybody cares. So it's an absolute thrill, especially with journalists. Say, I read your piece in. Oh my goodness, you'd be surprised at how fragile those egos can be. You have a question?
Thank you, Brian Hare from Veratics. We've all been in a situation where somebody either totally overshares their content, so it's you get 10 items a day, or undershares. You never hear from them except twice a year. Do you have a recommendation for people who are moving into this as to how frequently it seems to be the most effective?
Depends on the venue. I've disconnected with and kicked people out of my groups for posting their own stuff 2 or 3 times a day. And I'm not exaggerating here, 2 or 3 times, even the weekends. Get a grip. It's all the same damn thing anyway. So frequency, and feel free to chime in. I post a lot, I tweet a lot. I find interesting articles. The first thing I will do is tweet them. What I don't want to do is overpopulate groups on LinkedIn with my stuff. However, there's so few people posting on LinkedIn. I went to the ASCIA DC group on LinkedIn last week, and the first 5 articles were stuff that I posted there over the last 2 months. So nobody's going to look at the date it was posted. They're going to say, oh crap, Amtower stuff again. How often? Once a week, or if you find something really cool, post it, but say why it's really cool or why it's really stupid.
I would have to agree. I'd say once a week or bi-weekly is probably the most consistent. I think if it gets down to once a month, it might be almost a little too scarce, and people might forget, and you kind of want to keep your company fresh in their brains. And then of course, if you don't really have a system and you're posting once a quarter, then it's not going to be effective. So I would say weekly or bi-weekly.
I also generate a lot of content. I have a weekly newsletter. I have a weekly radio show. I blog, and occasionally a book will pop out. I want to share all of those things in as many venues as possible, but I try to restrain myself. The newsletter only goes out to people that subscribe to my newsletters. My radio show, only, depending on the guest I have, only goes in groups where it's really germane. Okay? If I have a blog post, same thing applies.
I have a question about your radio show. While the advice is always listen to the host's stuff or read their materials in advance, for those who aren't familiar with Amtower Off Center, would you tell us a little bit about the kinds of guests and issues of interest to you? Because some folks here might be good guests for you.
I like to write, or everything I do revolves around what works in the government market. So the radio show, my articles, my blog posts. I met you guys because Tom attended one of my LinkedIn sessions like 5 years ago or something. So I write about social media usage. When I want to talk about emerging contracts, Lofeld will come in, Larry Allen will come in, or a lawyer or some combination thereof. So I write and talk about everything about how to win business in this market. It's not easy, there's a lot of stuff, and if you try to find a rhyme scheme over the 12 years I've been on the radio, please tell me what the hell it is.
We've got time for, I'll bring it around to you, Bob.
Thank you, Megan. You talked about return on investment for marketing actions. It's often very difficult to measure. Could you share with us how you did it and what kind of results you got?
Yep. So we tend to use a lot of different platforms when we're pushing out materials. We'll go through like our third parties, such as GovLoop or Government Exec Media Group. and they will kind of build into our plan a content syndication. And in that content syndication plan is where we will get basically lead lists, and the lead list will contain the names who are downloading, the company, job title, email, and sometimes even phone number. And it's those lists are what we use to kind of build our database, and we put into our CRM system, if anyone has a CRM, and we put them into our system, and I go in and kind of assign the lead to the correct rep, and depends on what agency that they have, and we want to make sure that it's very tailored to the reps and that they're not wasting their time on people or whoever that they don't think is going to be valuable. So we kind of nurture the leads through our CRM system, and then we will have our outside reps actually directly engage with the lead. Sometimes you can have an inside team. It all depends on what size that your business is. And because we're a smaller business, we have about 22 outside sales reps that they will directly kind of follow up. And I'll give them all of the content as well, to like, here's the link to the webinar that we did, here is the white paper, here are the different pieces to the marketing activity, this is what our goal was, this is our message, this person downloaded it, or this person watched, can you follow up? And then our sales reps, they're very talented and they've been in the business forever, so they can kind of run with the lead. And so most of these lead lists are kind of what we look at for ROI. Anything that's more of like a brand awareness, where you're just looking at clicks or impressions, it's good information, but it's going to be more difficult for something concrete. So it all depends. Yeah. So it all depends on kind of like what you're looking for. If you're a newer business and you might want to start with just brand awareness, and those clicks and impressions are going to be more valuable to you. But for a business that's been around for over 10 years, you kind of want to start to get more focused and actually get some concrete people in your lead list.
And with that, with that, I want to thank Megan and Mark for sharing their expertise. Their slides are going to go out to all of you who left a business card. And please join me once again in thanking them.